How long does it take you to make a grocery run?
Depends on what I'm looking for.
Well,
Um,
just a typical grocery run. In and out, how long does it take you?
well, this is an interesting question, Derek. There's more to just the timing of this because I have not done an efficient grocery run in like 2 months.
Damn.
Yeah. Like it's been a lot of going there maybe like 3 or 4 times a week because we don't have anything instead of going there for a long period of time. So I've accumulated like a lot of little trips, but I'd say if I were to do like a whole run, if I'm like picking up food for the week, we'd go probably for like an hour, hour and a half, maybe.
All right. Wow. Damn. Okay, the reason I asked was because I literally just went to the grocery store. It was 10 o'clock. I was like, oh, I got an hour before we got to start this thing. Do I have enough time to go to the grocery store? I
Yeah.
thought to myself, I usually don't need that much time. I know exactly what I want. I'm in and out. I probably am in a grocery store tops 15 minutes.
Damn, really?
As long as the cash registers, going, the line's moving, I can get in and out pretty quickly if I know what the hell I want. And I'm expecting the aisles to be where I usually go and to have the things that I usually get.
You know what? Maybe an hour and a half is too long. Hour at most.
Yeah, I'm about to
Hour
say
at
like
most.
what you got like Sam's Club because that could take a while because they pass out free samples
Yeah.
or what's the like I'm not talking about like shopping at um IKEA. That'll take a while. But an hour and a half for the grocery store? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, are you and Jesse like looking at every little thing? Like, ooh, that could be good. Nah, I don't think so.
That's not happening. No, not that long. Maybe an hour.
Okay,
Maybe. If we're going it for a
go an hour.
lengthy if we're going for a lengthy trip. I love going to the grocery store, man.
I, I don't like to go every week. I think that's kind of wasteful. I think that you can just get a big thing of food, and you're good for about maybe 3 weeks if you get enough. But
Yeah.
today, so I pop in, and let me ask you another question. Do you bag your own groceries?
Mm, it again, that depends. That
Yeah.
depends. If someone's at the end and they're helping, then no. But if someone's just running the register on their own and there's a space for me to actually pack my own, then yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Do you bring your own bags?
Yes.
Okay, I always bring my own bags, but they're not the brand of the grocery store I go to. So I'll bring
Mm,
like Whole Foods bags to Safeway, and they'll give me a look like, really? But it probably is the best paper bag because it's strong, it's sturdy. The handle's kind of ripped from time to time if you do go to Whole Foods. But my thing is sometimes the Oakland grocery store that I go to at Safeway, there's not always a bag person. So I awkwardly sometimes bag my own groceries, or sometimes, the cashier is like, well, I guess I'll do it. But then they bag the groceries based on how many bags I gave them. So today, the grocery or the cashier goes, so you want all these groceries in 2 bags? And I'm like, well, no. If you could spread it out, that'd be great. And if I need to pay for more bags, I will. But these are the bags I came in with. So judging by the appropriate amount of groceries you put in each bag, I may need another one. And then at the end, she just goes, "Okay, well, you just have to tell me how much food you want in each bag." And I'm like, okay. I mean, it's not a science here. I just don't want a shit ton of groceries in one bag. When I take it out, the handle rips. But that's just me.
You got to put two in. You got to put 2 bags. You got to double bag it.
Well, okay, but is it on me to tell the the bag person that they need to spread out the groceries?
I've never had that conversation before. That sounds like it's a little too much. That just all sounds like it's too much all the way around. Or is it responsible? Are you responsible? No, it should be their job to pack the bag because
See?
they are the pros at it and they know how to get the most out of said bag. It's like packing a trunk, right? Whenever you're
Yeah.
filling the trunk up with like a bunch of stuff, you want to make sure it's all you can maximize the amount of space that you have by fitting stuff in certain places. I'm terrible at filling the grocery bag. So if you ask me, I don't know what to do. You're the expert.
Exactly. So that's the point where it's like I just don't want, like I understand like I don't bags cost money now, which I think is ridiculous, but whatever. So if you get an extra bag, no harm, no foul. But if they just bag your groceries based on the amount of bags that you gave them, and they start like stuffing eggs into like a small confinement of groceries, I'm like, well, come on, guys, like that's not what I paid for. I didn't pay for the eggs to be smushed. But I remember, God, a couple years ago when I moved into my old place, I got the same thing. They just bagged the groceries based on how many bags I got. And as soon as I got to the parking lot, the handle ripped and all the groceries that I got just fell out. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. That's annoying as hell.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. Ernie's like, you guys realize they get paid $16. They're not
I know.
experts. Well,
I know.
Well,
I know.
Well, two things can be true there. They do get paid $16, but they are the experts. They're the ones that do this for a living, or at least for a part-time job just to pay the bills. So, like, if you're going to be the one that's working the groceries, like, I'd think that you know how to fill a bag better than I do because there are certain things that they know that we don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that, Stephen. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm a jerk here. Like I'm not Homer Simpson in that episode where the Simpsons go to the safari, where he's like, "All right, you bag people, go ahead and just put my food in the bag. Stop annoying me." And there was a whole bag strike. It's a hilarious episode. You Simpsons guy, Stephen?
There's so many episodes. I haven't like watched a lot of them, but yeah, I'm not like a big Simpsons guy, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, Simpsons, God, from 93 to 2002, probably funniest sitcom of all time.
I was a big Simpsons Road Rage guy, the video game.
Great
PS2,
game.
For PS2.
Great game.
Yeah.
There was Simpsons Road Rage, Simpsons Skateboarding, which was it was parodies of other video games. So Simpsons Road Rage was a parody of Crazy Taxi.
Yes.
Simpsons Skateboarding was Tony Hawk. And Simpsons Hit and Run was basically GTA with Simpsons characters.
Right. Yep.
No, good times.
Yeah.
Those were fun games. Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. That's just my opinion, man, on grocery store workers. We've ignored the elephant in the room for way too long. Why do you have shades on, Stephen?
Oh, well, Ernie asked, like, is Langford hung over? I know the assumption is whenever someone's wearing sunglasses and these sort of things, they're in some altered state of mind. That could not get any. That could not be any further from the truth. With me, I just got some new sunglasses and I wanted to show them off.
Yeah, you got a nice like an optical illusion going on through the screen, so I can see your windows and going on and on and on an endless cycle.
Yeah. Well, there's not just one. I mean, we can go through. We can go.
Whoa.
We got the blue lenses. We got the orange lenses.
Look at you,
dude,
man.
Look, dude. You want to go? You want to go serious? I mean, look, we can go serious. All right. We just got the regular dark lenses. So I don't know. I think I might wear these depending on my my mood. It's like a mood ring, except I change sunglasses. When I'm pissed, I'll wear the orange ones. When I'm kind of just at a neutral, I'll wear these dark ones. And then when I'm chilling out, like I am right now, rock the blue ones.
I feel like you got to give us a little David Caruso action here. CSI Miami.
Who the hell's that?
You never seen CSI Miami where they'd be like, well, I guess we got ourselves a case. Yow! Boom, boom.
It's the first time in my life anyone's been disappointed that I didn't watch CSI Miami.
Well, neither did I, but that was like,
you don't watch that, dude?
I never watched CSI Miami too, but I knew the bit. Like he would just, look into the distance and be like, well, I did see a putty cat. Yow! That was an old Jim Carrey bit. He used to do David Caruso taking his glasses off to ridiculous things.
Nice. The redheaded dude, right?
Yes.
All right.
He was the cop on that show.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen, I'm glad you're rocking sunglasses because another guy rocks sunglasses indoors. A good friend of mine, O'Shea Jackson. You know who that is?
Yes, I know who that is, Derek.
Well,
he's not a good friend of yours.
We go way back.
Don't do this producer thing where you bring the guy on as a guest. You maybe text him a couple of times and you act like he's your friend. Don't do this.
Whoa. Me and Ice Cube have never texted each other, but it's Ice Cube. Ice Cube was in studio with Damon Bruce, like 7 years ago when the Big Three first started, and got a picture with him. It's you've seen it on social media. It's the widest picture of all time with me and Ice Cube throwing up the West Side. And he came back to the Bay Area this weekend, and he came in studio with Tolbert and Copes. We had fun. I guess Tom drank a 40 with him back in the day in 1991, Lollapalooza. So that's pretty cool. But Cube was back in town, and he wanted to promote the Big Three coming to Oakland, old Oracle Arena, not called Oracle Arena anymore. It's the Oakland Arena, I guess. And Adam Copeland asked him, why bring the Big Three to Oakland? And he said, well, got tired of seeing a bunch of teams run from Oakland. And I appreciate that. So went to the event yesterday with our guy, Alexander Scott. And honestly, dude, it was just really good to be back in that building again. I have not been there since almost 5 years ago when Klay Thompson tore his ACL. I was there that night when the Warriors lost to the Toronto Raptors, Game 6. I've not been in that building since then. And it was just kind of good, like nostalgia. It was like good feeling again to walk down through the Stella Lounge where I watched many a game. I did not always have a ticket to Warrior games. Always had my credential. But yeah, Steven always made fun of me. I would just chill in the Stella Lounge and watch the game from there. It'd be on delay. You could hear the crowd react to something before it happened. But I just wanted to be there.
Didn't make sense.
It actually didn't make sense at all. Regardless, it was good to be in the building yesterday, walking around all the concourses, and I just missed that place, honestly. Like, I know, believe me, like going back to Oracle and seeing the comparison with Chase Center, yes, Chase Center is much nicer. It definitely has a Staples Center feel, but I do miss, this is just me, I do miss just hopping on BART, living in the East Bay, just hopping on BART and going to the Coliseum and seeing arguably the biggest ticket in sports when it was KD and Steph and Draymond and Klay, and just that being just a couple minutes away from my house. I miss that, but I understand things change.
So it was the 3-on-3 event last night?
Yeah, it was the first week of Big Three. So I guess they kind of do it like football where they play every Saturday and once a week. And yeah, they have interesting team names, interesting team, matchups. Got to see Jason Richardson come back to Oracle Arena and played with the Tri-State team. I guess that was the name of his team, Tri-State. And his coach is Dr. J. It's funny. We got coaches in this league, and they don't really do much. They're just there. I'll tell you who's the most involved, though. Rick Barry. That guy cares deeply about winning every Big Three game. Yeah. So yesterday, it was a matchup between, I forget the name of the team, but Rick Barry's team had Leandro Barbosa. So that was pretty cool to see Leandro Barbosa go up against Jason Richardson. So it was good. It was good Warrior feels in the building. And then at that point, me and A. Scott, we saw 3 games. The rules are first team that goes to 50 wins the game. You got to win by 2 or more. And they have a 4-point shot. And yeah, it's cool. It's, if it's in your neighborhood, go check it out. Is it the most exciting basketball in the world? No. There's a team with all the Millsap brothers on it. Kind of fun, maybe by coincidence. But yeah, the Big Three's fun. I always thought, I was telling Alex yesterday, they should do this at Rucker Park. Like they should do it at like big, basketball environments. But it was very cool seeing it back in Oakland yesterday.
In Rucker Park. What, are you familiar with Rucker Park?
Yeah, the old it's pretty much,
You been there?
No, never been there, but I've always wanted to go. And yeah, when you think about basketball being played outside and street hoop, that's what I think of.
Right. Well, it's the most popular place,
of course.
So what? Your buddy O'Shea didn't get you front row courtside seats right next to the teams? Like what?
Who says he didn't?
Where'd you sit?
I did not sit courtside.
Where'd you sit?
We were pretty close. But I'd also say it was not the most sold out event. So me and Alex could move around. And I kind of wanted to sit back and just kind of not really pay attention to the game so much. Just kind of talk and, reminisce about the plays. Too Short performed. That was cool. I gotta be honest though. Every Too Short halftime performance or every Too Short sporting event performance is him doing a verse from Blow the Whistle and him getting paid, I gotta say, like $1,000 to do it. And it's the same thing every time. I'll say this too. I know I'm going to catch a lot of heat for this. I appreciate Too Short. Met the man a couple times. Good dude. Not my favorite Oakland rapper. Thought every song was kind of the same.
So who's your favorite?
Oh, Dell the Funky Homo Sapien.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're gonna catch that much heat for that.
People love Too Short, man.
Yeah, but it's different. He kind of started a movement. Don't get me wrong, Dell was amazing, but Too Short was kind of at the forefront of everything, and he was kind of like the pioneer. So I think that's really where people say he's the favorite. He's kind of like the Beatles of Bay Area rap in a way.
Yes. If the Beatles had lyrics like, I put a dick in her mouth, and that's what I'm about. That's my go-to Too Short line. All right, Steven. Well, let's talk about the most pressing news right now in the Bay Area. Oh, you're ready. Big deal, little deal, no deal. Howie Mandel style. Klay Thompson unfollowing the Warriors on social media, specifically Instagram. Your thoughts?
Well, I think there's something there. To be honest, I'm getting like a big Kevin Durant vibe from Klay Thompson right now. And what I mean by that is not necessarily the reception from the fans, because that's what I don't know how much Kevin Durant really wanted that. That how much people were, talking about how much better Steph is than Kevin Durant and him kind of living with that. But I think Klay's kind of in his KD era where he's not feeling as respected by the Warriors as he feels. And my guess is they were having some form of communication, and he kind of knows what the offer is going to be. And he said, all right, well, you're going to offer me that? Well, I am going to cause a storm. I am going to unfollow you on Instagram. I'm going to delete all my posts. I'm going to do what all these pending free agents do. And I'm telling you, yeah, this is real. Like, I'm going to go look for other offers. Like, that's what it said to me. I think there's something to this.
So, little deal, I'd say?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a huge deal. The biggest deal would be if they actually let him go and he goes somewhere else, and he's going to. But I don't think it's no deal.
I agree with that. I think in today's age, when you have contract negotiations and a player unfollows you on social media, no matter how ridiculous I think it is, it means that they're not happy. And it's their own little protest, I guess. But then again, like when we discussed Justin Fields unfollowing the Bears, he had some justification for it where he just wanted to unwind and get away from, bullshit of the offseason. So maybe Klay wants to do that too. Who knows? I wonder if Klay even really did it himself. I wonder if his people were like, hey, we're not liking the way things are going with negotiations. The next tactic is to unfollow the team. You cool if we do that? He goes, I don't care. I'm just going to go, drive my boat around. I don't give a shit. But okay, as far as Klay Thompson, I'll get into the ideology of unfollowing your team. With Klay, like, what does he really have to be disrespected about? I would say they took a huge risk when he tore his ACL, as I said, 5 years ago, and they signed him to it was a max deal when they signed him after that?
Yeah.
That's a pretty big show of respect. Not to mention to not move on from the guy after he tears his Achilles as well. They put a lot of support in Klay Thompson when his career was on the line. They believed in him. And he has not performed well. That's just the bottom line. He has not performed well in the playoffs, the last 2 years, the play-in game, the series against the Lakers. We have not seen the same Klay Thompson, and that's okay. But the team has not totally said, we don't want to deal with you anymore. They offered him 2 years for $48 million. And I think that's more than fair for at this point in his career. So, as Marcus Thompson put it on Friday when the news broke that he unfollowed the Warriors, Klay's petty. He is. He's shown it the last few years, and so has most of the Warrior players. Klay is when he's upset, he lets you know. Devin Booker, we got 4 rings. He, wants to talk trash to guys that disrespect him. I think he's feeling more disrespected all the way around, whether it's Charles Barkley talking about him or opposing players, or I guess contract negotiations. I will tell Klay, like, what happened to the carefree guy that was, chilling with Rocco and all that stuff. And I would say too, like, I think he's worried about his life after basketball, like what he's going to do, whether it's, you know, being in the media, which I don't know if he wants to do that or whatever he's going to do. And he sees it, closing in on him. But I would say, like, the Warriors are not disrespecting you, man. Yes, there may be more money on the open market, and the Magic may throw a shit ton of money at you. But do you really want to do that? Are you going to win? All these other playoff teams, they may look to make him a guy off the bench, a 3-point shooter that they need. But why can't he do that role with the Warriors? I would say there's really not a lot of room for Klay Thompson to feel disrespected, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, but then you see what guys are making the 24 to 25 million dollar per year contracts, especially 2 years, 48 million. And you see that group, you're talking about like the Brook Lopez's of the world. You're talking Jordan Clarkson, who's been a perennial sixth man. You're talking Terry Rozier, who's going to be making 24.9 next year. You're talking about these lower level players, or not lower level, but just kind of role players. And I think Klay feels like he's a step above them, so he deserves a little bit more than that, and for what he's given to the organization. So it's pretty clear he feels some type of way about it, though I also agree with you that he definitely didn't do it himself. I don't think any of these guys control their own social media accounts. I think a lot of people handle it for them, and we always give the credit. We did this with Tom Brady. Every single time he'd come out with a edit after the game, we're like, well, look at Tom Brady posted to Twitter again. He don't control his own Twitter. He doesn't control his own Instagram. He has someone else doing it for him. What are you serious? You can't edit those videos. He can't post them. I guarantee you he doesn't know how to post a video to Twitter. No. Same thing with Klay. Klay posts very seldom on Instagram, although I will say this, he does go live on his boat. So I do think he controls it some of the time. But I think right now in this offseason, I think he just lets someone else handle it. So I don't know if it, but also I say all that with the contracts to say, like, maybe this is the way that he should be paid now. Like, this is where he's at in his career. Maybe he's not as valuable as a lot of guys just because of his age, coming off 2 injuries. He's definitely a step slower on defense. And very inconsistent when it comes to 3-point shooting. And you've seen it a lot more this past year than ever, really, which is like, you see a lot of him forcing everything and just getting in his own head, having numerous heart-to-heart conversations with Steve Kerr just so he could get in the right frame of mind. That hasn't happened in the past. I think there's definitely something going on with him.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm with you though. I do think 2 years, 48 million is kind of what he is worth at this point. I don't know what his role would be on any other team other than what his role would be with the Warriors, which would be at this point a 6th man, or maybe if the Magic want him to be a starter. I just think that's an overpay on their part, and they just want a big name on a team that's on the rise. But yeah, man, Marcus Thompson said that he found out the news when he was covering the Mavericks and Celtics game Friday night, and I guess Brandon Pajemski was there too, just watching the game, and he said, "What's up?" to Brandon. He was like, "You see the news that Klay unfollowed the Warriors?" And they just laughed. They thought it was funny. Same thing that Draymond did on his podcast, where he was like, "I think it's fucking hilarious. I think it's comical." And I would just wonder, like, if that's how players view the whole thing too, or it's just like, all right, so this is what I had. Like, I'm sure, like Debo and I think Brandon Ayuk maybe unfollowed the Niners earlier this year. I think they don't give a shit. I think it's like, I don't think it's like, okay, well, I don't like where things are going, so this is what I'm going to do. I'll show them. I don't know what the whole tactic is, but like I picture all these agents, and I'm going to do like a Greg Amsinger voice here, but just like, hey, Klay, my man, listen, what's up? Listen, things are not going the way that we want them in negotiations. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to show the Warriors that you don't give a shit about them right now, that your loyalty could be elsewhere. So when they look through your Instagram, you won't be a part of it. You won't be promoting their team. And then Klay just like, okay, whatever. And that's just, I don't know what the benefit is of doing that. And also, I don't envy whatever publications spend their time being like, is Klay still following the Warriors on Instagram? Oh, he's not. We got a scoop.
with the lack of leverage that Klay has in this situation, I'd say it's to get some fans on his side. Like that's the benefit. It's to cause a stir. It's to cause a scene. It's to show these people, the public, like, hey, negotiations aren't going where we want it. And without asking, they don't do anything to spark this. But fans tend to get a little crazy when this sort of stuff happens. Like after Ayuk did all that stuff, it was nonstop. Pay Ayuk, all caps, like and tweeting at the 49ers, just causing a scene. There's not much more than that. Like it's like, all right, well, if you're not going to give me what I want, then I'm going to cause a shitstorm on social media, and you are constantly going to be getting bombarded with stuff, with people telling you to pay me. Like that's what's going to go on.
But do you think teams really care about that?
Probably not, but it's definitely a nuisance.
No, everything's a nuisance. Honestly, anything from fans that are not in support of the team is a nuisance.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this though: what's your reaction when you hear that Draymond goes on his podcast and said that's fucking hilarious about Klay?
Sounds like he was deflecting. Did you hear it?
No, I listened to it. So basically, you just thought he just didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, he thought it was funny, but he didn't give a reason as to why it was funny. He was just laughing because he didn't really have any other reaction to it. Like he doesn't want to go out in public and say that he's nervous or that he's concerned that Klay's not going to be on the team anymore. Draymond's not going to express those thoughts on his pod, so he just resorts to laughing. It's like what I do. Every single time there's someone who says something and I don't know whether it's supposed to be funny or serious, I just laugh.
Has that gotten you into interesting situations?
No, but sometimes I just come off as the giggling idiot who doesn't really know how to respond to a joke. Like I just laugh. Even if I don't hear the person, I just laugh. Give them a laugh.
I've been there before, but that actually wouldn't be a bad autobiography. Stephen Langford, the giggling idiot.
Yeah, it's going to go on my tombstone. I was always called Squirrely in high school. Shout out to my freshman math teacher, Mr. Nagra. He used to teach algebra. He used to call me Squirrely Langford because I just used to giggle all the time. Because he's a funny guy.
Lang? Wow.
Yeah.
I may have to start using that nickname on here.
Yeah. He's a funny guy.
All right. So as we sit here on June 16th and free agency starts July 1st, you nervous?
For what?
I'm just nervous about Klay. I don't know.
No. Like I've been expecting this since the end of the season. It's not
okay.
like if you're like, I genuinely think another team would be willing to pay him more money and give him a starting role and put him in a starting role. And I genuinely think Orlando is that team. I really do.
Could be. I am not nervous at all. I think that anything that's written like, oh, well, Klay's not going to sign a deal before free agency starts, so he's going to become a free agent. Okay, Draymond was a free agent too last year. I'm not that concerned. I think at the end of the day, they'll sign him back. And even if they don't, I'm okay with it. I really am. I think that they need to move on. I think that actually it would be the best interest of the Warriors to probably move on from Klay Thompson. But I know people love nostalgia.
I think it's in the best interest of Klay. I know he wants to retire a Warrior and all those things, but man, we are hanging on every single game. And I don't care if anyone says the outside noise doesn't matter. Yes, it does. These guys have made it clear that they hear it. And I just don't think that I don't think he has much to gain from being on the Warriors except for just, being on a team for life and having that idea of living out an NBA kind of dream the same way that Kobe did, who was Klay's idol, being on the same team for life. Like it's a huge thing. So I get all of that, but like, I just feel like every time he, gets relegated to the bench or kind of, plays just as a backup and he's just there to shoot, kind of playing in that Kyle Korver role. I just think he's always reminded of, what he was instead of like who he currently is. And I think he's really struggled with that because, he's said multiple times, like, yeah, I got to get over the fact that I'm not the same player anymore. And I got to come to that reality. Well, I think it's the Warriors that keeps reminding him of that reality, like walking into Chase Center, seeing you up on a banner, like at the practice facility, which I think is something that's happened. Like how you got to feel there when you know that you're not the same player. It's got to be kind of tough mentally, right?
Of course it is. But you think he's just going to be cool with going to a new place and realizing that he's not the man there?
I think Orlando's going to try to convince him differently. I think whatever team is going to entice him is to say, no, you will be. They're not going to tell him that he's going to be a sixth man out there.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to tell him, no, you're going to be a starter. You're going to be a huge part of our offense because we need you to fit in this specific role. Are you going to be guarding one-on-one some of their best offensive players? No, we're going to have Paolo Banchero take care of that. We're not going to have you take care of that. And I'm speaking from Orlando here. But you are going to be a huge part of our offense, and we have something we want to do for you. We have a game plan.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to tell him, yeah, you're not going to be the same player you were at Golden State. And just like, that's not how you do business.
Could be. I mean, I think it's easier to go to a new place and realize that you are not the same guy. I think it's harder to stay at that place where you had so much success and realize that you're not the same guy. I think that Marcus Thompson brought this up too, where he thinks that maybe because of the disrespect, Klay would be more enticed to leave and settle for less money someplace else. It's just easier to accept a new role on a different team where, like, this isn't going to be a bad comparison, but you remember Michael Bush, the Raiders running back?
Yeah.
He hit free agency and he realized that his market was not the same that he thought it was going to be, or as big as he thought it was going to be. So the Raiders wanted him to come back, but he did not want to come back and look and have his tail between his legs and sign for not the big contract that he was expecting. So he went to a different team, the Chicago Bears, and signed for less money. And some players just think it's easier to, okay, well, I'm in a new phase of my career. It's easier just to go do this someplace else and not have to question or have people question me every day when I'm on the Warriors. If you're Klay Thompson, are you cool taking less money? Are you cool with your role being diminished? It's what my role is if I were to go to the Magic or if I was going to go someplace else. And maybe he does get a bigger role with the Magic. Who knows? I would just say I'm not freaking out over him unfollowing the Warriors. I think a lot of guys do this. Debo did it. It didn't matter in the end. I don't think it will matter in the end either. I think it's just he's upset right now and things could change like that come, July 1st. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Maybe. But I think you could also, I think it's very real that you see two of your fan favorites in Kevon Looney and Klay Thompson gone.
And that's okay because this team does need to move on, in my opinion.
It's a little late. Honestly, it's too little too late. And I know it's you want to ride off into the sunset with this trio and, send things out the right way. But I mean, look at every one of these dynasties. Like, there's always someone who ends up getting screwed over.
Yeah, and I would say it's rare in sports where people get to have their send-off moments or retire together. It's just not the way it goes. Ernie One straight up asks me, Derek, do you want Klay back? I think I've answered this, but no, I don't. I'm one of the few people that's like I'm ready to move on. Honestly, I think Klay has not performed well in the playoffs the last 2 years. I don't think he's the same player. I don't really care for a lot of. I mean, I love Klay. I love Klay's personality. I love him as a player, but I think he's just let a lot of little things get to him lately that kind of bothers me. And yeah, man, sometimes you just got to move on. And I don't see Klay Thompson as being that same guy that we talk about the best backcourt of all time with him and Steph, and that's been questioned lately with Luka and Kyrie, but they're not those guys anymore. So I think Steph needs a better number two, and I don't think keeping Klay Thompson is going to make you a better basketball team. I just don't. I think that he's not the same player, and the Warriors do need shooting, but I think you can find it in other avenues. And I am of the belief that maybe it's time to kind of build around Steph, rebuild, I mean. Or, try and go get a quick fix, but I don't think that's going to help you. And I know that just the timeline does not work out with Steph having 2 years left on his deal and Steve having 2 years left on his deal. They want to win now, but I don't know, man. I think the Warriors are kind of up shit's creek, to be honest.
Yeah. The moves that they made, it's just not beneficial to their team right now. And Klay, there's just so much focus put on him on a day-to-day basis. We're always talking about Klay Thompson. What's going on with him? He's clearly, I'll just say, for lack of a better term, he's clearly pissed off right now. Like what's happening with him? It's like it's like once every couple of weeks we have that one conversation, and there's a lot of times, more often than not, where Klay will be on the court and at times be a liability because he's so focused on kind of getting his own shot and getting back to who he is. It's like he needs to see one fall that so he could get many more. But like we haven't seen that a lot this year. I mean, we saw it a few times here and there, and he was on that really good stretch towards the end of the regular season. But at the end of the day, going 0 in an elimination game, I think that kind of really sealed the deal for the Warriors there. So it's tough. I mean, obviously, moving on from him is going to be a sad, sad day, and I think there's going to be a lot of remembering who Klay Thompson was of old and not of new, but it's also at the point where it's becoming too much to deal with, I think, for the team, when they should just focus on themselves, the Warriors, not on Klay Thompson. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see come July 1st if the Warriors forgot about Klay. There will be a lot of yeah. It'll be Klay Day. There'll be a lot of puns.
Yeah.
Speaking of people negotiating contracts, I thought the quarterbacks were overpaid a few years ago when Jimmy Garoppolo was the highest paid quarterback, and then first it was Derek Carr. Derek Carr got the biggest contract. I think it was like $27 a year. Then Jimmy got his. Then everybody started getting theirs, Jared Goff, and then it kind of went away for a little while. Then they started rewarding guys that actually accomplished shit. Like Patrick Mahomes got that ridiculous 10-year contract. And at the time, it was like, okay, well, he's worth it. It was the biggest contract in NFL history, and Mahomes got well over $200 million guaranteed, but it was at $40 a year. Now it has escalated to something I think that's ridiculous. But that is the market. Trevor Lawrence is now your highest paid quarterback in all of football, as he got a 5-year, $275 million contract, $200 million guaranteed, $142 million signed on the dotted line as soon as he got the deal. To me, this is insane. Like, I understand that Trevor Lawrence is, the prototype quarterback that everybody wants to have. He, got one playoff win, the one game where they came back against the Chargers. He threw 4 interceptions and then threw 4 touchdown passes. And to me, he hasn't accomplished a ton in the NFL yet. I don't know where he ranks amongst the best quarterbacks in football, but I would not make him the highest paid quarterback. Now, on the surface, that contract looks ridiculous, but that is the market now. It is just, the next guy is going to get the bigger deal. Like, you're talking about the likes of Tua and Jordan Love possibly making 57, 60 a year. And that's just what it is right now. So while I think it's ridiculous, I do acknowledge that is just the way business is done right now, where every new quarterback that gets a deal will probably set the market and the record for highest paid players.
I think we're in an interesting point here in football, because through the past 20 years or so, we have been under the impression that it takes the quarterback. Every team is trying to find their next Tom Brady. Every team is trying to find their next version of Patrick Mahomes. Every team is trying to find their next version of Peyton Manning, Joe Flacco. Go down the list. Quarterbacks who have just Ben Roethlisberger, quarterbacks who have just dominated the playoffs. Hell, they're even their own Aaron Rodgers. But this is really, I think, a litmus test here for this new generation of quarterbacks, because now they're paying the Joe Burrows, the Trevor Lawrences, the Justin Herberts, this incoming generation, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, even, like all these guys, they're 24, 25 years old. Do you think this is going to work out to the point where, like, if these guys don't have success, let's just say they don't take them to the Super Bowl. Don't make them perennial playoff contenders. Are we going to get to a point where maybe the market goes down for quarterbacks just because they don't really have much leverage in their negotiations, because they feel like they're the more you put into certain positions, then that's kind of the way to win, because it's just going to keep going up. It's going to keep going up. And with Trevor Lawrence, I don't know if the Jaguars should have paid him that money. To be honest, I think they should. He has what, 2 years left on his rookie
Mhm.
deal. I think he has,
Mhm.
like, why not at least let him play out for one more year? Make this like the Dak Prescott deal, where it's like the Cowboys made it harder and harder to pay Dak Prescott until, you know, they cave, but they have to pay him again. I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you on that, because you definitely could have just said, okay, well, Trevor, 55 million a year, you're not Joe Burrow. And I would tell Jared Goff, you're not better than Justin Herbert right now. I would not do that deal. The same way you would tell Brandon Ayuk, you're not getting the Justin Jefferson contract. You have to tell these quarterbacks, well, you can't get that amount of money. Like, I'm sure the Miami Dolphins are like, Tua, we can't pay you 60 million now. Like, I'm sorry, but you haven't won a playoff game. How can we justify doing that? Now, the leverage the quarterbacks have is, well, what's your alternative? Who are you going to go to? Going to go through it all over again? You just drafted me number one. I am arguably the biggest quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, and talking about Trevor Lawrence. You got to make this work with me. And just giving up on me is not going to make you guys look good. So I know I'm going to be here. Is Doug Peterson going to be here? No. If I don't perform well, then you're going to find every other person to blame before you come back to me. So I think a lot of teams just panic because they want to have the opportunity to have their guy. And I think a lot of teams do. Like, if you go through it, like how many teams have not found their guy on the surface? Like, there could be question marks about a few quarterbacks here or there. Like, obviously the Raiders are like, well, we're not going to pay Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell right now, so we're still evaluating things. But for the most part, I feel like most of the 32 teams in the NFL have found their guy. And whether it's equated to much success or not, they don't have any other alternatives. Now, the Cowboys are going crazy this year, and they're going all in, as Jerry Jones says. And they're not going to pay Dak. They're not going to pay CeeDee Lamb. They're not going to pay Micah Parsons before the season starts. That's what's rumored. Who the hell knows? But they're going crazy with that move. Other teams are just like, well, we're better off with Trevor Lawrence as opposed to not having him. So let's just do what we got to do. Then that goes on a slippery slope, because then the Dolphins now are like, well, is Tua our guy or not? Are we starting from scratch quarterback wise? And you may not have that answer yet. So do you overpay for him now? Do you play it out with Tua? That's what I would do. Jordan Love's different, honestly. I honestly would pay Jordan Love because I see a lot of potential in him. And you may want to do it now before things get more costly. But that just brings up the conversation when the Niners eventually have to reset the market for Brock Purdy, as Jed York said. What the hell are they going to do? This is where things are going to get screwy, and they got to win this season, man, because when they start paying Brock Purdy possibly 60 plus, then you're going to say goodbye to a lot of guys.
Do you think, though, that maybe they won't make this out to be like a 5-year deal? Maybe this could go in the range of like 7 to 10 so that they have a lower average annual amount of money, because with all things considered, Purdy is like, I think, the damn perfect quarterback for Kyle Shanahan's system. He really seems to not the perfect quarterback, but as good as you're going to see, really. Like, I think with all the knock that you hear on him, I heard Chris Sims earlier this week put Brock Purdy super low in his ratings and think that just as a pure quarterback that you're giving him too much credit for all these guys who are wide open in that offense. Well, look, Purdy knows how to run it, and I don't think Shanahan has much patience to try and deal with another quarterback situation. So I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to go beyond the 5-year, not really limit, but it's what everyone else is getting. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide like, hey man, you're really young. We'll give you a contract extension up to 7 years. You're going to be getting a lower average annual value, but you're going to be making the same total money as these guys. Like, look at Josh Allen's contract. in a weird way, paying him $43 million a year, like for that talent, feels like they're getting a pretty good deal.
Oh, they are. But what's the length on that contract? How many years?
6 years.
Yeah.
6 years, and you're paying him the same amount of money as Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson over a period of time.
If I was the Niners, I would not sign Brock Purdy to that long of a contract. I think that's just too risky, to be completely honest. Because he's good for you now, but to make that to make that commitment for that long, I don't know if he's that good. Like I know a lot of people are like they love Brock, and he's a very good quarterback. And was he a little low in Chris Sims' rankings? Yes, but it's June rankings. I don't really care. I do also agree,
not the
though.
ranking that matters. But it's the way that he's describing Brock Purdy that matters. Forget the ranking. Who cares about the ranking? But the reason why he was ranked lower than average, I think it was like 16th or 17th or something.
17th.
Yeah, it's because that offense. But if it works in that offense, who cares about the individual quarterback?
Well, he also I listened to what Chris Sims said. He also said a lot of it is the media saying, well, Brock Purdy's making these throws and blah blah blah. And, he's developing the plays and whatnot. He's like, no. Like if you look at what's going on in X's and O's wise, Kyle is kind of scheming it up for him, and that's why these guys are so wide open. But you know what? I mean, that's kind of bullshit too. Because all right, we want to have a good offensive coordinator to set that up for you. I think that he just doesn't value. It's the old argument of Brock Purdy, where if you just take him for who he is, don't include who his coach is he that good of a player? Like, would any other team pay him this amount of money? Probably not. I think it works for the Niners scheme. Like his big hot take thing is, if Jordan Love started in the Super Bowl over Brock Purdy, they would have won the game. Because he's developing plays more, and he can make that off schedule throw off his back foot and throw. And who the hell knows? That's a ridiculous statement to make too. But I would take Jordan Love over Brock Purdy. And I know Niner fans freak out when you say that stuff, but I would. I think there's more potential there just on the surface. Whether he has Matt LaFleur or not, I think that Jordan Love is shown that he can fucking sling the football. Brock Purdy can too, but it's just different.
I just think if you're going to be, if you found your guy and you're paying at the going rate of quarterbacks, right now it's $275 million. That's just on average, right? Or not on average. That's the total number for Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. Though Joe Burrow is making a little more guaranteed money. So technically Joe Burrow is the highest paid player in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on average.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how much 1 year how much a difference 1 year makes. All right. If you pay Purdy 5 years, $280 million, let's just take 280. If you're paying him 5 years, $280 million, that's when you're up there in the $55 million or $55 million per year range. But if you just simply take 280 divided by 6, I'm just doing like real basic math here. I'm not like some sort of salary cap expert, but you're only going to be paying him $47 million per year in base salary. And that's just a 1 year difference. I'm sorry, but if you can get that much of a deal and you get a little bit extra on your salary cap, I think giving him an extra year is worth that $10 million gap.
So you're saying 7 to 10 year contract?
Not 7 to 10, just even a 6.
Okay.
6 year deal.
Like they could do that, but I could also see Purdy's agency being like, well, we don't want him that long of a contract. We don't want him on that type of commitment. We want these quarterbacks. Like, Trevor Lawrence signed a 5-year contract. I think quarterbacks want to. I mean, didn't Justin Jefferson sign for, what was it, 4 years or less than that?
Yeah, 4 years.
I think that a lot of NFL players want to go the NBA route, where they have the opportunity to go back to free agency and renegotiate.
Yeah. Is Purdy that kind of guy, though? I know the agents would want him to be that guy.
Well, I mean, he could be happy the rest of his life just, off his contract to corn seed money. But I don't know. Yeah, he could, but also if you're Kyle, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do it for that long.
Really?
Are we sure Purdy's that special of a quarterback?
I mean, they got to the Super Bowl at his first full season, and they were putting up historic offensive numbers for
I know
everyone on the team. So I'm not saying individually, but with the offense, they
Yeah.
work well together. So what is
But
it?
what's that offense going to look like when he gets paid and he doesn't have these guys around?
Well, I'm saying if he gets paid 6 years, 43 million, there's a chance that you could actually keep those guys around.
Yeah. I mean, the perfect scenario that the
I
Niners
should be his agent, damn it.
What, are you going to give him more tractor commercials?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
The Niners will come out and say this,
Instead
but
of a signature shoe, get him a signature John Deere tractor.
yeah, there you go.
Brock Purdy won.
He's on the Purd. I would say the Niners would never say this out loud, but a perfect scenario, they would just want to keep drafting young quarterbacks that are not, they're just rookie talent, cheap talent every year, and then they can interchange guys so they can pay the playmakers, and then yet they're what the most important position is making the least amount of money. They really have, benefited from Purdy making so little and being this good, but now it's going to kind of blow up in their face, in my opinion.
Good. Or it also depends what happens next season because they don't have to pay him this year. We're just always talking about Purdy because Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I know they'd want to, but he still has 2 years left on his contract. I think it doesn't have to get done this off season, but maybe they want to wait
next
a little
offseason.
bit. Yeah, maybe they want to wait a little bit, see what he brings in his second year, and if he's for real, then they'll pay him.
You would have to believe, though, with what's going on with Ayuk right now, that they're very aware of what they're going to have to do with Purdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see, man. Quarterback contracts. I mean, yeah, do you agree that's getting ridiculous, but this is just the way it is now?
They're out of control, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty insane. Yeah, I would love to see, God, if the Dolphins end up paying Tua, God, I would love to see what he gets. Because if he becomes a $60 million quarterback, I don't know how you justify that.
Wow.
Yeah. What else we doing? Oh, real quick on Chris Sims' quarterback rankings. Do you know who he has as the lowest rated starter?
Lowest rated starter.
Yes.
Is it a rookie?
It is not.
Not a rookie. My guess is Aiden O'Connell.
No.
Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew. I mean, are we assuming Gardner Minshew is going to be the starter?
The way that they're talking out of camp right now is that it really is a competition, so I don't think it's a sure thing.
All right, fair enough. But Gardner Minshew was 39th on his list. And yeah, to me, that was just like, oof. Like the Raiders really are going into the season with just not a long-term answer at quarterback, and that could be very detrimental to their season.
And I had a real problem with it in the draft. I didn't like it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more as it comes around. Speaking of training camp on the horizon, and now we're just at mandatory OTAs. I don't want to talk about this for too long because I just don't think it's that big of a deal, but everyone just made a huge fucking deal about this whole week. Aaron Rodgers skipping mandatory OTAs. And God, everybody had to have opinion about it. Like, we are in a really bad lull right now in sports media. Like, I understand that the Mavericks and Celtics series is not as sexy as people wanted it to be. There's really no stars. Like, there's Luka, obviously, but there's the negative stuff with Luka about him throwing temper tantrums on the court and not performing well defensively. And Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are not the biggest, household names when it comes to the NBA. So now we make huge deals out of Caitlin Clark, who just got fouled, by the way, from Angel Reese. So that'll be a talking point tomorrow. But the Aaron Rodgers story this week, I thought was just ridiculous. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I understand the optics of it, of him saying at the end of the season, all the bullshit, everything that is negative needs to get out of the building. And I think he's basically talking about Zach Wilson and how he didn't want to play, whatever was going on there. He was at OTAs, not mandatory OTAs, voluntary OTAs for the majority of this offseason. So he was there. He was there for all of last year. He knows the offense. He's not some new quarterback coming in. And I understand like the way that it's presented, where it's just like, oh, it's an unexcused absence. Aaron Rodgers preferred to go to whatever, some ayahuasca retreat, whatever the fuck it is, than be with his teammates. And I know that's a bad look, but I don't really care. Like we're talking about mandatory OTAs. Like I understand that he's going to get fined, but if he and Robert Saleh had an agreement on what was going to happen, then I think it's fine. I just don't think they could justify him going on vacation. He wanted to do it right now, and then he'll be there. If he's there day one of training camp, then who really gives a shit? I think this whole story is just ridiculous.
Then what's the point of mandatory OTAs, though?
What's the point of it?
Yeah, I mean, if you could just skip it and it shouldn't be a big deal, then what's the point?
Well, he was there though. He was there.
He was at
prior
voluntary
weeks.
OTAs, but not the mandatory stuff when the entire team's there.
That's just the way the NFL schedules it, man. But I mean, I do understand the weirdness of it all, where the Jets could have moved this OTA practice to a week before that would have not conflicted with Aaron Rodgers' schedule. I guess they could have done that. But I think at the end of the day, I understand like Rich Eisen every day talks about it like, well, how could the Jets not realize that they're causing a shitstorm media-wise when they do this? I don't think they care. I understand like teams are cognizant of, PR and stuff like that. But when it comes to like the building and the team and what they view about this whole thing, they're like, all right, well, you guys can make a big deal out of it. Chris Mad Dog Russo and Mike Francesa and all the New York guys can run with the story and make it a big deal. But as far as inside the building, we don't care.
Well, then what's the point of mandatory OTAs, though? Like,
it's just a thing in the NFL offseason. That's just the way it is.
Like, that's why I think it's something of a big deal, though. Well, not a big deal, but I think there's something to it. Like, you're not going to show up for mandatory OTAs because of an event that's very important to him. You're getting paid $50 million to play football, and you're not showing up to the mandatory portion. I don't know what he left for. I don't know what he didn't. What that event was. I'm not going to sit here and say it's part of like some Robert F. Kennedy Jr. rally or whatever for his campaign trail. I'm not
very well could.
I'm not going to try and speculate on what it is, but if it doesn't matter, then at the end of the day, mandatory OTAs doesn't matter then. Like,
yeah, I mean, shit, I thought it was stupid a year ago when everybody was freaking out. Like, remember when Sean McDermott was like, Stephon Diggs is not here in mandatory OTAs. And yes, I am concerned. Okay, well, then he showed up to training camp. And I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but I don't know. He's not there now. They traded him away. So there maybe was something to that. But to me, I'm like, I don't really care. Like on the flip side, Lamar Jackson didn't show up to voluntary OTAs. And he basically gave up on, how much was it? I wrote it down here. Hang on. He basically gave up on, he was fined $750,000 for missing OTAs. Now, if you're thinking, if you're Lamar Jackson, you just signed a contract, you're like, do you really want to miss out on that money? But if he doesn't want to be there, I don't think it's going to really kill them when it comes to the season. So he's there now for mandatory OTAs, and most quarterbacks are, but I get it. It doesn't look good. The optics aren't great, but at the end of the day, if this is anything to do with them week one, then I really don't think I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Well, you mentioned the Stephon Diggs thing. Stephon Diggs left. He was gone after the season.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how his teammates respond. Like, hey, I got plenty of stuff that I want to do. I have events that are very important to me, but you know what's taking precedence over that? Yeah, I'm going to, or taking precedence. Whatever.
Yeah, I got you.
Like, what's taking my time? Yeah, it's going to be the NFL. Sorry, these are mandatory. I'm skipping out on that. Some teammates are like, dude, who are you? You're no better than we are. Like, you're I mean, you are, but you're the quarterback. Like, you got to be here. I just think I don't think it sends the greatest message to your teammates.
Let's be fair. The way that Hard Knocks was portrayed, he's different than everybody else in that organization.
For sure. And I could see that rubbing teammates the wrong way.
Until we hear it otherwise, I don't really care.
I don't really care either. You brought it up. I have an opinion on it, but I haven't talked about it all week.
Okay, well, okay. Do you think the media, though, made it too much of a big deal out of it?
I don't care what the media says. The media is the media. This is nothing new. This is what we do every year.
Yeah, I know, but it felt like a little just too much.
It doesn't feel like the media stooped lower than it ever has. Like, this is what the national media has.
Yeah, but I'll also say, Steven, that while I do not support most of what Aaron Rodgers says in his free time, I do feel like there is kind of an agenda where it's like, there's crazy Aaron Rodgers again, just doing whatever the fuck he wants. If this was any other quarterback, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I think there's something to it if it's another quarterback. You know why? Because there aren't really any other starting quarterbacks that skipped mandatory OTAs for an
Yeah,
important life event.
fair enough. I mean, when you do like, if it does come out that he went to an ayahuasca retreat, then he's got to answer to that. He can't like
Yeah.
blow it off like it's nothing. He does have to answer to that. And if it's where everybody in the building doesn't matter, then I think then they got to move on. I think that the media's got to be like, all right, well, if Garrett Wilson doesn't care, then let's not make a big deal out of it. But I'm naive as well. They're gonna make a big deal out of anything.
Yes, they will.
Jackass of the week. Gonna make it quick. This NBA Finals has been kind of boring. And yes, the Mavericks have kept it alive for one more day. Don't know why we can't have a game 5 today in Boston on Father's Day. Thought the ratings would be big for that, but nevertheless, it's not happening today. It's going to be tomorrow. And most likely the Celtics close it out tomorrow night. But I want to go back to you and I were on while Game 3 was happening. The Mavericks were storming back, but Luka was in foul trouble. And Luka then took a charge and screamed to the sideline, "You better fucking challenge that." And they lost the challenge, and he was fouled out. Then Brian Windhorst went on and just lambasted Luka, saying, this has been a thing with him. He always complains. If he wants to come out of the winner's tunnel, then he needs to play better defense. And I'm not a big Brian Windhorst guy, but that was the first time I was like, I agree with that. I don't think he said anything that was out of bounds. Was he a little overly critical as a guy that's never played basketball before professionally? Yes, but that's just what reporters do these days. And he was definitely intending for that to go viral. But I didn't have any problem with what he said. I thought Luka kind of looked like a whiny brat, to be completely honest. I thought that he complains too much to begin with, and there's nothing new with him. But on the biggest stage in the NBA Finals, and to complain about the refs all the time, I think he's a great player, and he backed it up on Friday night's game. But Luka would be my jackass of the week for just how he conducted himself in Game 4.
I wish I had an athlete or someone in sports who I could call a jackass of the week. I don't really have many of them. I genuinely thought about it a lot leading into this podcast, and I can't.
Well, you could do your nice guy of the week. You can always flip it up.
I think Luka was probably that, but I think there was one, but I'm not really going to use this one for jackass of the week because I think there's a much larger conversation, and we kind of both said we haven't paid attention to the WNBA that much, but there's this whole thing with Caitlin Clark again, not doing what she could to stop the racism, the xenophobia, the homophobia that's been hurled towards WNBA players. It was like a very deep conversation, but my jackass of the week was this driver. All right. So I'm in the car. So we're on to get into my apartment. It's simply 2-lane street, 2-lane road. Just one this going this way, the other going that way.
You kind of gave the picture of it last week when you were talking about the movers coming in.
Correct. So this time there was a big ass truck who was there is a big ass moving van that was parked in the way of the road straight. I'm trying to go straight into the apartment. There's a big ass truck in front of me. So normally what anyone would do is go around said truck, right? Truck was parked there. They're not moving. Got to go around it. Well, as I'm going around it, there is another car that is coming through my way. I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to go. And here's the thing. Across from me on the curb, who's trying to get on the other side of the road as well, they are parked, but they are telling me that I should go around the truck, right? And I'm like, wait a second, I can't go. There's another car coming this way, and I can't go around or else I'm going to crash into them. So this dude is honking at me, telling me that I got to go. And I put both my hands in the air and I pointed at the car going this way. And this dude, like, he went, ugh, gave me one of those little sighs. Ugh. And then he started turning out, and he almost crashed into that car that
Wow.
was going the other way because he was not paying attention. He was so focused on me telling me to go around this truck that he almost got into a crash himself. So that guy is my jackass of the week, because you got to be aware of all your surroundings and not just focused on one said car. Also, that moving truck was way in the way and could have gotten out the way, but it didn't. So that's my jackass of the week, 1B.
That's totally fair. I will take your word for everything that went down. And yes, that qualifies as a jackass.
Yeah. Like, dude, focus on yourself.
Maybe we should make Jackass of the Week a little more personal about just people that have wronged us.
Could do that.
Like, okay, I'll throw one at you. There is a taco truck that is right outside my building, and they do pretty good business. Don't mind them selling tacos on the street. By all means, do it. I'm sure it's great burritos. I've walked by, haven't had one yet, but I probably will. Although I'm not sure I will now because they blast music super loud at night on the street corner. And I've gone down a couple times to be like, hey guys, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Is there any way you guys can lower the music? And they're like, oh, yeah, my bad. But they do it every night. And I've talked to my building and I'm like, hey, can we do anything about the truck there? And they're like, well, no, it's not, it's not on our premises, so we really can't say anything. I'm like, it's kind of a nuisance for the people that live here. So am I the jackass that wants them to turn the music down, or are they the jackasses for, I mean, by all means, do your business. I'm not stopping you, but the music's a little loud.
I can totally sympathize with anyone who wants their neighbors to turn down music.
Oh yeah,
or people close to them to turn down music. I'm on your side with that one. I used to be on the other one side. Like, who cares? It's just music. Get over it. Nah, it's disrespectful. You got to turn it down now. Like, I'm at that point in life.
Yeah, me too. I don't mean to be the cranky guy, but I'm sorry, but like on a Sunday night, like and also like who you play the music for? Yourselves? Like, I think at some point you just gotta, sell the tacos. I do not mind, but just turn the music down or off. That's it.
No, I don't think you're the jackass for that. I think they are.
I will definitely keep you guys updated on this because this battle I have with the taco truck on Grand Avenue is not over.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's Sunday night. If they decide to start blasting music at 1 o'clock in the morning, I may have to make a scene here.
Hello.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Real quick, we'll do pop culture catch up. But just a thought on this, Steven. He was going to be the biggest free agent in sports media once TNT lost the NBA rights. But Charles Barkley announced to the world Friday night after the Mavericks beat the Celtics, keep the finals alive, that he will not be continuing his TV career once TNT is off the air with basketball. He is going to retire after 24 seasons on television. Your thoughts?
As he should. As he should. I think a lot of those guys should. Like, except for Shaq. Shaq can keep doing whatever because he's very active on social media and he wears a lot of hats. But Barkley doesn't do anything. Not literally.
Oh, okay.
Like his DJ hat, his analyst hat, his podcast hat, his commercial hat. He wears a lot of hats. Big hats, but wears a lot of hats.
Big head.
But I think these guys, they're not going to recapture whatever magic they had on this Inside the NBA. Like it's a full, it's not just the hosts. It's like, all right, you bring these guys back, but it's their producers. It's it's the people that work behind the scenes. It's not just the hosts that make everything go. So I think once Inside the NBA was done, I thought all those guys should have been done. Like they've done their share, man. They're such unique personalities. And I'm going to miss them, but also like the elephant in the room, like I don't know how much they really care about like everyday basketball stuff.
Yeah,
like the who he play for, it's great, but there's sometimes where it's like you're a professional basketball analyst and you don't know who this guy plays for. Like there's sometimes when you could tell they just haven't watched, and I think they need some fresh faces who are more inclined to give 110% and give their all. I think those guys, they do their work and they're very good at it. They're hilarious, but there's times where they just aren't taking it seriously, and I don't think they're going to change any of that moving forward.
I think Charles probably saw what the future of sports media has become. And if he was going to go to ESPN, he would be required to do more than just whatever countdown show they put him on. He would have to be on First Take. He have to give, like, they want him to be, PC, which at times he lets it fly on TNT, and it's hilarious, but it gets him in trouble sometimes. But I think that he liked the schedule of just showing up twice a week to talk about NBA games and just talk about it on the surface, but not have to give in depth, analysis. He doesn't want to do that shit. I'll miss Charles Barkley because I do appreciate just how laid back he was, and he's not going to give you the hot take bullshit. He's just going to be like, this is what I see. And some of it was wrong and annoying and, kind of personal, where he would go after the Warriors, the Rockets, or other teams he didn't like. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. He may not give a fuck even more now than the last year of being on TV. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Kenny Smith and Shaq. They may want to go to different networks and cash in. But yeah, it'll be less fun without Charles Barkley in sports media.
Yeah, but I think it's time to move on.
The question is, will TNT try to make it enticing for Draymond to retire?
Oh, I think they've tried.
They might even more now because they need someone to replace him. Well, not TNT. They don't have the rights anymore, so Draymond will have to go someplace else. But I think some network will try to make Draymond, if he was close to retirement like he said he was this past year during his suspension, then maybe some network like ESPN, or if you're trying to make, noise and streaming with Amazon, maybe they throw a shit ton of money at Draymond. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. All right. Lastly, pop culture catch up. Anything new, Steven, you've been watching?
I watched Godzilla -1 on Friday.
I heard that's pretty awesome.
It's pretty sweet.
On Netflix?
Yes.
Nice.
So watch that.
Okay, fair enough. I started watching the Clip Show. Good God. This thing is extremely over the top. Way over the top. Like, Lawrence Fishburne is fine as Doc Rivers, but I don't know what voice he's trying to do. It doesn't sound like Doc Rivers. The best actor or actors on the show are Ed O'Neill playing Donald Sterling. He does a fantastic job. He's just a solid actor, and he does the role, he's honest. Like, it's the accurate portrayal of Donald Sterling. And then I don't know her name. I believe it's Jackie Weaver. I want to say her name is the woman that plays Donald's wife, Shelley. She does an amazing job too. They're really good at just being bad people. The woman that plays V. Stiviano is good too, but God, her character just annoys the crap out of me. It's just so over the top, and shit that didn't happen, and the actors that play the athletes look nothing like them, and it's definitely no Winning Time. Like, if you hated Winning Time, then you'll for damn sure hate this show. It's entertaining. I'll keep watching it. I don't know why, because I'm just addicted to sports stories. I want to see how this goes, but the show is just a little too much for me.
All right, fair enough.
All right, and that's all I got, Steven. See, you want to do an hour and 15? I got you there. But before we get out of here, real quick.
Okay.
Well, I'm doing this for you, my man. Today is Father's Day.
Oh.
And I want to give you the floor, sir. I know that a lot of people have fun today, with their families and with their fathers. But today I kind of want to think about the people that don't have their dads anymore. Like our friend Daniel Ogden, Alexander Scott, Elena Madzorkis, my mother, my dad, people that have lost their dads. And Steven, I just want to give you the floor, man, and talk about your dad.
Oh, I mean, these days don't get any easier. And I'd say, like, right about now is when these get a little harder, because we got the World Cup going on, and or not the World Cup. We have the Euros going on right now. And he did not watch a major tournament win since 1966. And I think England is really the favorite to win it now. They're currently up 1-0 on Serbia. But yeah, man, it's I mean, it doesn't get any easier, of course, to remember him on this day, but these are the ones where I just implore anyone to cherish whoever they got around them, because you never know. You never know when it could be the last one that you have. Like I didn't know, like, the last Father's Day that we had together would be the last Father's Day we'd have together. So that's what I'd say on these days. Just cherish it.
Well said, man. So happy Father's Day to everybody out there, whether you're with your dad or you're honoring your dad. Thanks everybody in the chat today. Skills, Ernie1, Ernie2, a little Danny Gold TV, AJ Cruz. Thanks, guys. As always, we'll be back on Wednesday. And at that point, we may have no more basketball or hockey. It's just baseball the rest of the way until we get to training camp.
We got soccer. We got the Euros, dude, for the next month. Then Copa America.
Steven, say what you always say.
It's just our opinion, man. You got to get into it, dude. Soccer's sick.